Oh.
Welcome to the Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, and I'm so glad that we can connect during this time through the power of technology. We are still new to Zoom, so I thank you for your grace and your patience as we learn to make the most of this technology. Please be aware that this service is being live streamed and recorded, and that you can find subtitles in one of your menu options at the bottom of your screen. We are still posting the services to YouTube, and you are welcome to join us in that way, but you will miss being able to participate in some of the interactive elements of the service. I like the Zoom format so much because it helps me remember what it's like to be present with each of you on Sunday morning. I want to encourage you to make use of the chat throughout the service. It's kind of like passing notes in class, except the teacher is encouraging it, and everyone can see your notes, so please keep that in mind. One of my favorite Netflix pandemic binges was the TV show The Good Place. This quirky little show about possible afterlives offers us so much to think about, from human nature to your philosophy and ethics 101 classes. After I scheduled this topic, I was delighted to learn that there had been an entire religious education class here at this church based on this TV show. So I feel like I'm in good company as a fan. Today, we explore what The Good Place can teach us about just how complicated living an ethical life can be. I'm going to avoid show spoilers, and I'm going to endeavor to make this understandable for those of you who haven't seen the show. So if you haven't seen it, this service is still for you. Hang in there, and we'll find out why buying a tomato can send you to the bad place, at least according to the show.
Together. If you read up on today's service, like Reverend Tiffany said, we're going to be talking about The Good Place, a TV show that aired from 2016 to 2020 and is a humorous look at our living and our dying. Our chalice lighting comes from one of the very last scenes in The Good Place, spoken by the character Chidi Anaganye, a professor of moral philosophy. If you have a chalice or a candle that you would like to light, please join me now. Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height, the way the sunlight refracts when it passes through, and it's there. You know what it is. It's a wave. And then it crashes on the shore and it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave is just a different way for the water to be for a little while.
Our story today is another exploration of the metaphor of waves and water from Harvard professor of psychology Richard Alpert, who is more widely known as Ram Dass. Imagine two waves drifting along in the ocean, one a bit bigger than the other. The bigger wave suddenly becomes sad and upset. "What's wrong?" the small wave asks. "You don't want to know," the bigger wave says. "No, really, what is it?" No, it's just too terrible," the big wave replied. "If you knew what I knew, you would never be happy." But the small wave persisted in their questioning. Finally, the big wave explains. "You can't see it, but I can. Not too far from here, all of us waves are crashing on the shore. It's going to happen to us too. We are going to disappear." The small wave says, "I can make you happy in just 6 words, but you have to listen very carefully to them." The big wave doesn't believe it. What could the small wave possibly know that they don't? But they're feeling desperate. And so after a while of doubting and mocking the small wave, the big wave finally gives in and asks the small wave to tell him. And so the small wave says, "You're not a wave, you're water." What does that mean? You're not a wave, you're water. Reply in the chat. What are Chidi and Ram Dass trying to tell us? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How is this metaphor useful to us as we consider our personal ethics? Karis's musical offering today invites us to consider ethics around the food that we eat and the complexities of our food producing system with her original song, Right to Know. I love that we have our very own musical activist on staff here, and so we will let Karis explain the origins of this song in her own words.
Dear secret someone, what is your name? How did you come to control my food? I am a child of war. I have many names. Monsanto became a household, but Bear will do for now. Agent Orange was my first. I know how to round 'em up, skin 'em down. A weed, by definition, is any unwanted growth. Cannabis, weed. Mullein, weed. Corn, weed. Soy, weed. Nutritional soil, weed. Monsanto is a weed, and I want it gone. Your seeds infect my crops. Your genetic mutations infect my food. Your corporate willpower infects my life, and I want this weed gone. The effects of your seed are unknown, but they travel far. No fence can hold them back. No law can suppress your mutiny nor tyranny. Monsanto has been your name, but your fate is the same as Rome. Unless you control yourself, the gladiators will come and feast upon our flesh. Cancer is a new ruler of this era. He's your child you could not afford for. Monsanto, or should I say Bear, You and your GMOs, OMG, right? 80% of my aisleways are branded, sliced, and drained for your benefit. Weed, sickness that devoured my soil with your depleting chemical arrangement like God. You are not God. You are a weed, and I want you gone. I wrote that poem in 2011 when I was on the road as an activist. We were doing a march that year on our tour from New York City to Washington, D.C. And we were lobbying for labeling for genetically engineered foods. By the time we made it down to D.C., we'd come up with a theme song for our tour. And it still rings true today. So this is why I have chosen this song to play for you all. GMOs, GMOs. Don't you think we have a right to know? Right to know. All we want's a label for the food that's on our table, so we can all say no to GMOs. GMOs, GMOs. Don't you think we have a right to know? Right to know. All we want's a label for the food that's on our table, so we can all say no to GMOs. Well, some folks call it frankenfood, where the animal and plant become one. Others call it a product of war. Agent Orange rings true, meant for the poor. Our water and our land are crying out, help, we can't breathe. Alas, louder than our voice, that cash box rings. GMOs, GMOs. Don't you think we have a right to know? Right to know. All we want's a label for the food that's on our table, so we can all say no to GMOs. So we can all say no to GMOs. Power to the people!
Wow. I'm loving seeing everyone's reactions in the chat. So one of the gifts of being together in Zoom is that we get to see each other's responses, and also that we get to hold each other's joys and concerns together as a community. So I want to invite you that if you're in Zoom with us, type your joys and concerns in the chat box. I might end up reading some of what you say out loud, so please only share what you're comfortable with your community knowing. And if you're in YouTube, I'm not going to be able to see what you write in the YouTube chat. While you share in your joys and concerns and your moments of awe in chat, I'm going to light a candle for all of those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, which in truth is all of us, every person on the planet. As of this morning, 4,912,199 people have died worldwide from COVID-19. We witnessed this tragedy and we will not look away. And we are not alone. We can scroll through the top of our screen with those little blue arrows and see who is with us here today, recognizing that some of you don't feel like being on camera, but if you want us to see your face, even for just a minute, now would be a great time. I'm grateful for each of you. Each of us may see ourselves as a wave in the ocean, but we are more than a wave. We are water. We are the ocean. And in the quiet moments where we breathe together, we can lose our attachment to the wave and just be water together. Take a moment to breathe with me. We breathe in and the water flows in. We breathe out and the water flows out. We breathe in and the tide comes in. We breathe out and the tide goes out. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and you are a wave. Breathe out, and you are the entire ocean. Together, we support each other when things are hard. Together, we celebrate when things go well. We celebrate that the youth group is meeting safely for the first time in over a year. We celebrate a joy for a friend celebrating a milestone and for honoring her true self. A joy for a friend who is states away, ordering food for us when we are sick. A joy for the way that we connect with each other here. The creativity that has arisen as small groups find ways to meet, as people find ways to connect and support each other online. I'm so grateful that we don't let our challenges and our obstacles keep us from caring each other. And knowing that we are part of a bigger picture. We also hold in care the people of Lebanon, Haiti, Afghanistan, experiencing violence and social upheaval. We lift up the many workers in various fields who are on strike here in the United States. And in our hearts, we hold refugees everywhere, seeking safety and freedom. Holding all of this and whatever remains unspoken in our hearts, we center our practice on loving kindness.
Our reading is another excerpt from The Good Place. So let me set the scene for you with some background. In the mythology of the show The Good Place, humans are constantly earning points We're earning points for the good things we do, and we're losing points for the bad things that we do. So if we get enough points, we can end up in the good place. And if we don't have enough points, we'll end up upon death in the bad place. So during this scene, no one had made it to the good place in 521 years. So we know that the accountants were definitely not universalist. So these are the words of Michael, who was played by Ted Danson, and he was a supernatural being involved in some of this point system. He knew that there was some unfairness in the point system. And here's what he had to say to the judge. Your Honor, I once stood in front of you and said I thought there was something wrong with the point system. I now know what it is. Life now is so complicated. It's impossible for anyone to be good enough for the good place. I know you don't like to learn too much about life on Earth to remain impartial, but these days, just buying a tomato at a grocery store means you are unwittingly supporting toxic pesticides, exploiting labor, contributing to global warming. Humans think that they're making one choice, but they're actually making dozens of choices they don't even know they're making.
Thank you, Spencer. 8 years ago in Florida, my congregation entered into a year-long exploration around ethical eating. It was the Unitarian Universalist Association's Congregational Study Action Issue, which is a selected area of importance that we agreed to study and reflect on for a 4-year period of time. And so I was really excited. Even though I'm an omnivore, I love food and love vegetarian food especially. So I thought I had already had this topic all figured out. I was thinking back to my environmental psychology class from college 20 years ago now, and it had been pretty clear that our environmental impact is lessened by eating no meat or less meat. It did stuff like comparing how much food you could get from an acre of beans and how much food you could get from an acre of meat, raising meat, stuff like that. And also, I had just come off this General Assembly convention where this was the topic everyone was talking about. And I heard several conversations about adjusting the wording of our first principle from the inherent worth and dignity of every person to the inherent worth and dignity of every being, making it broader to encompass animals as well. So, since I thought I had already figured all of this out, I thought we'd do some vegetarian cooking and talk about why it's better for all of us and just call it a day. Imagine my surprise then when I discovered that there was so much more to ethical eating than that. The study guide did contain essays and poetry that spoke to the intelligence, worth, and dignity of animals, but there was also so much more. Like the concept of food deserts. A food desert is an area where there is limited access to good quality fresh food. So many impoverished urban areas don't have good transportation options and also don't have grocery stores with real produce, meaning that they are often limited to buying cans of stuff in street corner mini marts. This information really shook up my simple and privileged assumption that all of our problems could be solved by eating organic vegetarian produce. And then one of my congregation members had to go ask a question that made the whole thing more complex. Y'all do that, you know? Thank goodness you never let me get away with my easy answers or let me hold on to my initial assumptions. She came to that first vegetarian cooking class and asked, what about the worth and dignity of the field laborers that are picking all that produce? Do they matter too? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was being invited to go deeper into the complexity of eating and ethics. I was focused on what I already had figured out, not eating animals. And I was missing a lot about the human element, especially the humans that weren't as wealthy as I was. I found out that it's complicated, which brings us to the good place and the tomato that can send us to hell. Not that they ever really said hell in the show, but they do have a bad place run by demons that torture people who don't get enough points to go to the good place. So it is the same thing. The point system in the show is definitely based on personal good deeds and personal bad deeds, even in our modern interconnected global economy. And so anyone who buys a tomato in the grocery store is going to lose points. Like Michael said, we think we're making one choice, but we're actually making dozens of choices that we don't even know that we're making. Unless we can afford to buy organic, we're going to lose points from toxic pesticides. And as part of it also means that we're part of the global food system that is being propped up by the GMOs highlighted in our musical offering today. The food has a good chance of being picked by someone who is underpaid, uninsured, and exploited. And if we're eating a tomato in December, then it has probably taken a long gas-consuming journey to get here, contributing to global warming. No doubt there are ways to personally do better. And I know that many of you here actually do. Farmers markets and growing your own food and composting are phenomenal responses. And they are really meaningful ways to heal our relationship with food. We're even lucky enough to have an active organic farmer in our congregation showing us how it's done. And eating less meat really can reduce the amount of suffering and pollution in the world. These are good. Every little bit does help. But these are alternatives for people who have the time to grow their own food and access to land, who have the money, time, and transportation to get to the farmers markets. So the point system is broken. And maybe the point system even favors people with a certain amount of economic privilege, like me. We participate in systems that do harm, even when we personally intend no harm. We literally have to sometimes in order to survive. So, what is the solution? When I outlined this dilemma, I have a lot of empathy for Chidi Anagonye. He's one of the characters in the show, and he's a professor of moral philosophy. So if anyone can figure out how to truly be good, even within late stage capitalism, it would be Chidi, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, Chidi seems just as challenged as the rest of us. This character truly tried his hardest to make sure that every decision he made was an ethical one. And as a result, he could almost never make a decision. His desire to not do harm, his deep, agonizing, relatable earnestness actually harmed many of his relationships, because they always found themselves waiting around for Chidi to calculate the ethical implications of every decision, from which kind of muffin to have for breakfast to telling a friend the truth about his ugly cowboy boots, even if it hurt their feelings. And as a person who genuinely wants to do the right thing, I can relate. It seems like every time I turn around, I find that something I enjoy is actually doing harm. If the point system outlined in the TV show was in play, I would definitely find myself in the bad place. But like many Unitarian Universalists, my focal point is less on what I might be earning in an afterlife and more on how my choices are making this life a good place or a bad place. And it seems to me that when I'm trying to make this life the good place for as many beings as possible in as many ways as possible, then it becomes more complex as we focus on systemic, corporate well-being rather than individual goodness or holiness. There are powerful forces in play, even when we're focused on this life. Corporations that value profit over the long-term well-being of people and the environment. And they do everything they can to make it feel like this environmental crisis is all our fault as individuals because we aren't recycling enough, or because we litter, or because we're wasting water by taking too many showers. But the 2017 Carbon Majors Report points out that 100 companies are responsible for more than 70% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Yet, those same companies will spend tons of money on PR to run "We care about the environment" ads that guilt us individuals about our tiny environmental sins. And this isn't to say that we as individuals shouldn't do the best that we can, but it is to say that we need to recognize that a lot of noise about our personal responsibility is coming from companies that are doing so much harm. A quick Google search can lay out a bunch of examples of this sort of corporate gaslighting, but my current favorite is an anti-littering sign put up in a park by Duke Energy. It says, "Why are you littering?" And then it has checkmark boxes offering possible reasons why us irresponsible individual humans might be littering. It says, "I am a jerk. I don't care about natural areas. Mommy still cleans up after me," and all of the above. Online, the image of this sign is juxtaposed with a clip of a news article that says, "Duke Energy fined $102 million for polluting rivers with coal ash." So, Duke Energy, which box are you checking off? If our environmental crisis is more about the work of large institutions than well-meaning individual action, and if we are concerned with making this place good rather than earning points for a pretend good place later, then where do we go from here? Individual ethics sermons really are easier to do because they have a call to action that I can connect to things that we actually have control over. This is harder. Maybe I've even preached to myself in a corner. But like Michael said in our reading, it's complicated, Your Honor. But I really do want to offer more than that. I respect you too much to hand you oversimplified answers. So instead, I will tell you the direction that this line of thought points me to. And it's this: if the problem is institutional and systemic, then the answers also have to be institutional and systemic. We need good institutions. I've seen what the collective bargaining power of large groups of people can do. Almost every car company is working on an electric car now, not because they're nice, but because consumer demand is increasing for that product, which means that our individual choices can matter when they create a demand, which is not only an example of how collective action works, but it also lets us know that our personal choices can make a difference if enough of us are doing it together. And then there's the time that I went to General Assembly all those years ago, and I witnessed how a large convention with large numbers can negotiate for widespread composting and recycling in the convention center. This means that we can create, hold, and leverage our power by building different institutions to counteract the harmful ones. Institutions that value life over profits, institutions that model different ways of using their power, including how they treat their employees and the most vulnerable amongst them. Institutions that have a vision for making this place the good place for all of us. And maybe Unitarian Universalism can be one of those institutions. May it be so, and may we build it together.
Let's extinguish the chalice together with some parting advice from the good place. These are more words of wisdom from Michael. Sometimes when you're feeling helpless, the secret is to help someone else. Get out of your own head. Trust me. The next time someone asks for help, say yes. And there's always chances to help one another here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. Our social justice team is the embodiment of love in action, and they are recruiting. If you'd like to join up or to learn more, look for their email in the announcement slides or on our website under news. It's not too late to register for the Fireside Fall Fun at the Grand Oaks Farm. This event is this coming Saturday night, and it would help in planning if you would please register by Wednesday the 20th. Registration info can be found on the website, also under news. If you want to contribute a thank you gift for our retiring office administrator, Karen Cross, get in touch with Reverend Tiffany as soon as possible with all contributions by this Wednesday. If you need a little extra support right now, please contact Reverend Tiffany or the caring team. Please get your COVID vaccine if you can, so that help us all stay safe together. And we have a very special announcement about our fundraising auction. This is a significant way that we financially support our congregation every year. The auction will be held through an online platform again, this one Thursday, November 11th through Saturday, November 13th. Right now, we are looking for donations, so start thinking about what you might be able to donate. Last year, some popular items included homemade meals, food deliveries, outdoor dinners, hikes, other outdoor activities, and physical items. We will now hear from Cindy Huss about why the service auction is so important.
Hey everyone, I'm Cindy Huss, and I have been an active member at HVUC for more than 13 years, and that feels really good to say. The auction was one of the first social events that I attended as a new member, and hanging out with all you fun people and listening to the witty auctioneer and pitching in with everybody else who was pitching in to make the event a success was really great for me as a new member. And then I had a whole year full of events to look forward to with you fabulous people. And I have participated in just about every silent auction since then, either in person or by sending in my bids to a proxy. And last year was a little different because we could not have an in-person event. But last year's preparation and the auction and the items that we bought and that we provided still connected me with our church community in really meaningful ways. So the very first thing that I got was handmade dishcloths from L&B. And I have been using them all year. And every time that I pull one out, it makes me feel connected. Bob and I did a dinner with online games. It took a little more logistical planning than everybody coming to our house because we had to plan and make the food and deliver the food and then get back in time to play games online. But the benefit is the brain calisthenics that will keep us young a little bit longer and the connection that we had with the folks who participated. I got to prepare Hungarian lentil soup for good luck in the new year for friends and make pumpkin pies for other friends. Podmates and I pulled resources for Mary W.'s fabulous family recipe, cure for anything, duck egg enhanced eggnog. It's really horrible. I'm sure you don't want to bid on it this year. And Beth C's better than chocolate bread pudding with rum sauce. And if these couldn't lift our spirits, I don't know what could. We also were lucky enough to attend Dana Wise drive-in outdoor movie night at Grand Oak Farm. And it was one of the first in-person events that we had done with church folks since COVID began. And it was really a balm for my heart to see so many different people. We ate together, we watched a movie together, and we enjoyed the beautiful darkening starlit sky. So last year's service auction, though very different, still connected me and made me rejoice in the creativity and the resilience of our community, who finds new ways to connect even when things are really, really weird. So I love you all, and I look forward to connecting with you all this year through the service auction as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Our benediction is another story from Ram Dass. After leaving his university professor job behind and studying in the East, he wrote his bestseller, Be Here Now. His father, who was an attorney, asked him what he was selling the book for, and he said $5 a copy. His dad said, that seems cheap. Could you sell it for $10 a copy and sell just as many? And Ram Dass said, probably so. Well, Richard, I don't understand why you haven't been. And so he replied, Dad, you remember when Uncle Henry got in that legal trouble and you spent hours and hours on the case? I bet you charged a sizable fee to Uncle Henry. And his dad reacted, what? Are you out of your mind? It's Uncle Henry. I couldn't do that. Then you see my predicament, Ram Dass said. If you can find someone who is not Uncle Henry, I will rip them off. And so, my beloved community, as we go from this place in our eating, in our living, in our spending, and in our selling, may we never forget that the ones that we are interacting with are part of our family.
number 1064 in the teal hymnal.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been flailing all my life now, never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way